Welcome, one and all. Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. It may be getting hot outside, and that may not be the best for our homes, but like I keep saying, no worries. Water Cleanup of Florida has you covered. 24/7 you can reach them, which, as any of you who owns a home or even has a home that you do have to take care of some of the things with it yourself, being able to reach out to someone in the service industries 24/7 is huge. Plus, with over 60 years of experience and licensed contractors on staff, Water Cleanup of Florida will take in your call, make an appointment, get out there, assess the situation, and fix it themselves. So you don't have to go to a ton of different places to get one job done, which to me is the most stressful part, to have to go find the right people to come and check it out. Hopefully they can fix it, but if they can't, now go find someone to fix it. No, Water Cleanup of Florida will do all of that for you. Just give them a call, 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. Again, reach them 24/7. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, you get a free inspection during business hours. Also, you can check them out on their website, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com, on social media as well. They're there for you to reach out to them. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. Water Cleanup of Florida was very much in need last night when it came to our sports scene. Panthers did get swept. Panthers had the most points in all of the regular season and all of the NHL. Finally win a series in the playoffs for the first time in over 25 years. Take on the Lightning, the other hockey franchise in Florida, where they're actually probably the main franchise. The Panthers are the other one. The Lightning have 3 titles, 2 of them coming in the last 2 seasons. And the Lightning took out the Panthers last year, and they took out the Panthers this year in a sweep last night. The Miami Heat, the banner franchise in all of South Florida sports, is doing this seesaw affair with the Celtics. One game they played great. A lot of effort, a lot of intensity, offense and defense. The next game, they forget how to play basketball. Well, last night was the game they forgot how to play. So we talked about both series and both disappointments. Today, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Like Monday.
Sad. Yeah, it was very sad.
Wow. I mean, I saw there was very little to talk about there. I mean, I turned off the one game. It was very exciting there after a couple of periods.
Yeah.
The Panthers were just buzzing, and I'm thinking, like I said, I'm one of those people. I think, all right, if I'm losing like 11, 1 in a game of 1-on-1 to 15 or whatever, I still think I'm in there with a shot,
Yeah.
Because, you make a couple of stops. I mean, I sound like Hubie Brown here. Well, what they need is a couple of stops. Of course they do. The other team is beating them by 30, Hubie.
26. Obviously, they need a couple stops.
Somebody stop them. What are you just going? Well, no, why don't we just let them score? And then we'll try to catch up that way.
Yeah, well, the Heat didn't get a lot of stops. That's for sure.
But I always, I'm less of a competitor in that fashion now than I was when I'm out there playing my lame recreational tennis. But, you're always in there trying to win, and you have to think that you're in with a shot, no? Even down like, you're in a tennis match, you're down 5 love 40. The chances are that you're going to lose, but, fight for the next point, see what happens.
Yeah. And when you're on the ice or court, you always think you can get the next point. Once you get that, you'll get the next one. 100%.
You see this in tennis, too, with some of the great champions where, they're really not on their best game. I always mention this about Andre Agassi. That was one of the
Agassi was great.
Contributing factors to his greatness, that even when he wasn't on his best game in his secondary career, not as the hot flash, but as the actual solid, dedicated pro, he would find a way to hang in there and beat you. Djokovic does the same thing. I used to see it. Steffi Graf, I remember her having a horrible match. She's down a set, down a break. And the slightest crack comes from the opposition, right? They miss a shot like a duck at the net and should have put it away for a key point. All of a sudden, that goes the other way. I mean, it would happen against Serena also, although, Serena was just so overwhelming.
She never got down that much.
Not sure that this was, the characteristic that she was displaying. But, the ability to just chip away, and you have to believe that it's going to happen, right? It's Doug McGraw time, right?
Yes.
You got to believe. So I actually thought for a second, you know what? I mean, let him put a couple of goals in here last night, and maybe they can pull out game 5, and all of a sudden,
that's a series. Yeah.
You're in with a shot.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But
didn't happen.
No, that was creepy. That whole series. They have to get rid of this guy, Brunette, after a horrible performance like that. Was sort of surprising, was it not?
It's what I felt, and I again don't know enough about hockey to compare to the other sports. In the other sports, the guy would have been let. If it was a team that was supposed to win big and they got swept, outside of Doc Rivers, who somehow keeps his job all the time.
Doc Rivers is still very much. I'm glad you brought that up.
They would have lost.
His name keeps being associated with the Lakers. I mean, why would the Lakers want Doc Rivers? Because they want a guy that is kind of like just there, like a figurehead type of coach.
Yeah, they want a guy that can be controlled. Look at all the names that they've all the names that have been mentioned are guys that don't carry their own weight at all. Darvin Ham, he's never been a head coach. Doc Rivers should never get a job again. Like, the dude literally does less with more every time. The only title he got, they should have won 3. Like,
what about Nick Nurse, man?
And Nurse is a legit coach. Yeah, Nurse is a legit coach, and he never really considered the job. Howard actually is a legit coach that would carry weight there, and he's like, yeah, I don't want that. None of the legit coaches want this job. It's become like the Cowboys, where LeBron sits there, and you have to do what LeBron says. And what coach worth a grain of salt wants that? No coach wants that.
An aging LeBron is telling you
he's
how
not
to
the same
run the
LeBron.
clock when it was his idea to bring in Russell Westbrook
and ruin everything.
Unfortunately, it was the proverbial square peg in a round hole, and never really got it together there with the Lakers. Whose ever fault it was, or whatever the reason was, irrelevant to the fact that unfortunately that was a failed experiment that shouldn't be repeated.
That's why when people give
Butler on the coach
crap, I'm like, you know what? Butler chose to go to an organization where they picked their young coach over LeBron. Like, literally, Spo didn't have any credibility to anyone but Riley, and Riley picked Spo over LeBron, and it was smart, and it's what they should have done. And Jimmy Butler chose to go there. Like, anyone who gave Butler any crap, no, you're wrong. He actually chose an organization that believes in their coach more than any talent. And he chose to go there, and he's changed his entire career. Like, that's why I give Butler all the credit. LeBron just wants these yes men, and it's totally ruined his. If he stays with the Heat, they probably win 2 to 3 more. Look what the Heat have done with guys that are way worse. But LeBron wants yes men. Okay, so go get a yes man, and you won 1 more title, and you'll never sniff one again. And you're going to
Seems the Heat are very good at finding role players.
Yes.
They really are. Well, they're very good at that. I mean, they've dug up a lot of guys off the European scrap heap and found guys in other areas. That was Riley characteristic going back to Mason and Starks.
Yep.
With the New York Knicks, where he would find guys that other people had no interest in and turn them into, with the Heat, they had a variety of three-point shooters. They had any number of other players that they brought in that you didn't think too much of that ended up blossoming on the Heat roster and even benefiting and then going elsewhere and laying an egg. So, they've been very good at that over the years. You would think that LeBron would have trusted the great Pat Riley to accomplish that for him. But you know what? Some people don't want to be bossed around.
I get it.
Don't want to be bossed around.
But there's nothing wrong with understanding. You always want to have smarter people in the room. That's what the smartest people always say is you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And the people that are successful understand that. They understand to embrace your role and allow others to embrace their role. And LeBron, and I get it. The old school way was wrong. The players shouldn't have just been, cattle. I get that. But it doesn't mean you have to go the other way and be the only one in power too. There's got to be a balance if you want to be successful. And that's what we've seen, at least in sports. Business, I don't know. But sports, that's what we've seen.
Hard to picture Doc Rivers with a big red nose on, but he deserves it after that abomination. Now, Philadelphia might not have been able to defeat the Miami Heat, who have, as you see, a tremendous amount of depth. It didn't show last night, but if anything, I mean, at least Oladipo gave them some semblance of dignity in that performance. The fact that they got this guy also off the scrap heap, and he's resurrected his career. I don't know, never going to be the same, level of impact. But wow, it was nice to see, right? I mean, that is one of the heartening stories that happened with the Miami Heat. That Victor Oladipo, very popular player, right? All those years, so with the Pacers, very popular. And you thought, wow, what would this guy do on a better team?
Yep.
And then he got hurt, and then had subsequent surgery again, and you thought it was over for him. So kind of nice to see what's happening there. Jekyll and Hyde series, though, I mean, like none that we've seen so far. I guess the other one that would have been in that area might have been the Phoenix-Dallas series, where, the teams eventually just flip-flopped identities, and Dallas became the better team and dominated the two games you would have figured that Phoenix would have owned. As Chris Paul, who is it? Patrick Beverley that's taking all these shots at Chris Paul?
Yes, yeah. He really has a thing for Paul. Even though
maybe jealous of all of the. I mean, Chris Paul doesn't strike me as this effervescent, ebullient, spokesperson, right? So, and by the way, did you see what happened? I mean, speaking of spokespeople, whoa! I mean, we've been mentioning this because, the likelihood of you running into Steph Curry and Serena at a Subway, like that little one on Commercial Boulevard, where you're like going in there and you don't know what you're ordering when you're ordering the tuna. It could be anything.
That's the thing.
This could be any kind of fish. It could be a carp that was caught in the canal across the street there, for all you know.
Yep.
And, these people are going there, to Subway because they're eating fresh.
Yes, Brady and Steph. Right? And Megan Rapinoe.
and you're looking at like the meats in there, not to compare them, but to a local place like the Lovely Gale.
Like a Las
Yeah,
no way.
Does that roast beef look fresh?
Oh, no.
If you're comparing it to like Las Patas or any other, place that is making a much more representative, healthy based sandwich for you. So anyway, now Derek Jeter is in one of the commercials.
Oh,
Derek Jeter, when is he? What has Jeter done in terms of commercials? Not much, right? Jeter.
Subway.
You couldn't find him with a search warrant. I mean, he was always in that suite, but did anybody have access to it? I mean, it was very strange, that whole involvement of Jeter. Another one of those guys like Nick Saban, and I'm a Jeter fan and always was, but. I remember taking a picture with Nick Saban, and the weirdest thing about it was when the picture was, finally shown to me, Saban wasn't in it, even though I
had no shadow.
It was just like a skeleton of Saban.
He's like a vampire.
Like he didn't really have a soul. I mean, this guy. I mean, some kind of zombie. But we do have that picture of you and
Jeter,
me with Derek Jeter that we took at spring training. And it was kind of weird, wasn't
He's very
it?
uncomfortable.
The picture in the presence of Jeter
with Mattingly and the picture with Jeter are two very Mattingly smiling. You can tell we all have a rapport. Jeter, we're all like this. We're like scared if we even
you
get
could
near
feel
him.
his reluctance to even be in the picture, even though we were the flagship station and the marquee guys there.
Yep.
On the station that was carrying the Marlins games and still does.
Yep.
And we're out there schlepping, schwitzing, in the darkness there, spring training, trying to, build some kind of enthusiasm. And I thought, we were very enthusiastic about that team.
We tried. We
knew they were schleppers, but we were very enthusiastic. It wasn't like we were lying. We were just trying to generate some enthusiasm for what was going on.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Big Jeter fans. And yet, did you not sense that there was something awkward about that? Now, he's in a Subway commercial. For the sandwich, not to take the New York subways because they're safe again after people are getting shot there every day. Subway, Derek Jeter.
Yeah, he isn't eating Subway. Like I mean,
imagine it. When have you seen Jeter?
Never.
I would imagine that you could visit every Subway location in the United States of America, and there would be no evidence that Derek Jeter ever set foot in one. Maybe did they shoot the thing at a Subway?
Yes.
An actual location.
He must have had to have. Oh, that would be great if he wasn't even in a Subway for the commercial.
I don't believe he was even in the Subway for the commercial.
That'd be great if he didn't even.
Well, what has he ever endorsed? Jeter, nothing, right? I mean, he had to have something. I can't remember anything.
He's had stuff, but it's like Brady, where it was like Turno or like Mercedes. Like it wasn't like stuff. It was like upper echelon stuff that you weren't seeing the commercials all the time.
He's there with Steph Curry, Simone Biles, who happens to be training on Subway sandwiches.
Definitely.
I mean, it's inconceivable, and there's like another big star in this commercial.
Well, Brady does them.
Well, Brady isn't in the same one. In fact, Jeter references that he replaced Brady.
Okay.
And but Brady, I mean, he didn't have enough time to say his name. They must have paid Brady contractually for like 0.2 of a second. How long does it take, Lubie? Time this out. Tom Brady. I'm Tom Brady.
Yeah,
that's
like
what, 1 second maybe? One tick at a clock?
2 seconds, yeah.
So they must have only paid him for like 3/4 of a second, whatever it was, because at $375 million for however few hours he's going to do of Fox broadcasting, going, you know what? I was surprised they ran the ball there because they could have passed it. Okay, Tom, thanks. Jim Gray, by the way, I mean, on that show with Tom Brady, he has never displayed any penchant whatsoever to actually come out and say anything that you would say, wow, that's interesting.
No, Jim Gray.
No? Same thing with Jeter, but no, Jim Gray on that radio show. I mean,
with Brady, the thing that they do, that's like the best combo ever. Brady and Jim Gray.
Jim Gray.
Two guys who've never said anything.
My son sent me a clip the other day. He was having a back problem. I didn't even know he was going to play tennis last week. You ever see this clip of Jim Gray interviewing Mike Tyson where Jim Gray says, well, what happened there in round 2? And Tyson goes, I broke my back. And it's like a young Jim Gray, and, you know, kind of, he makes all of these asinine, you know, kind of snotty-looking faces, and says, what do you mean you broke your back? And he goes, I broke my back. I cracked my spine. You listening? It's like a great clip. I always thought he was going to haul off and punch Jim Gray, and the world was hoping that might happen too, I believe. Yes, especially when he came out of that restaurant with our reservation, Lubie. Imagine it. Losing a table to Jim Gray. Well, that's something. Yeah, I mean, you talk about being low on the totem pole. What an embarrassment. I mean, that was. And I don't know that it's inexplicable because it's kind of been how the series has gone so far. Yes. I mean, the Celtics were competitive for a half in game number 1 and actually had an 8-point lead and then absolutely were decimated in one of the ugliest quarters of Celtic basketball ever. So that game went in lopsided fashion to the Miami Heat. Celtics come back and pummel the Heat. The Heat all of a sudden with a 180-degree reversal of form in game number 2. They lose on the home wood. They lose home court advantage. Celtics in game 3 do another vanishing act, and the Heat control the pace all the way throughout the game and go off and win handily, take a 2-1 lead. And then last night, with a chance to really drag, dig the dagger into the Celtics' chances, they lay an egg and shoot 3 for 20 in the first quarter, have 4 points with about 2 minutes to go, and it was essentially over as the Celtics not only dominated that first quarter and then built on that lead and were up like 24 at halftime, and you had to figure it was lights out. Eric Spoelstra, the Heat coach, threw in a towel pretty early and had a lot of his guys on the bench from that point on. The lead got as large as 31 and ended up being 20, and just no contest right from the start last night. So I don't know. Where does that leave you? I mean, I'm actually of the feeling, my original instincts about game number 5, which would be, what, is it tomorrow night, game number 5?
Yes.
Tomorrow night. We don't have to worry about the Panthers anymore because they got eliminated by the Lightning, so that saves you having to have an eyeball in 2 different places if you're home watching these games. But I don't know. I for some reason expect the Heat to just turn right back around and beat the Celtics. Send it back to Boston 3-2.
It's just weird because it's what we've seen so far in this series, and the Heat have played better at home. The role players played better at home. My big confusion was, so Bam Adebayo was a waste on offense the entire playoffs. He comes out of nowhere, I guess without Robert Williams, and plays as well as we played him on the offensive end in his entire career. To then, because Robert Williams goes back to not, like, how good is Robert Williams defensively? Is he Hakeem? Like, I know Robert Williams is a good defensive component for the Celtics, but for him to be this big of a force, to make Bam go from 10 to 31 to 9, like, I don't understand. Like, Bam Adebayo was so needed last night. Jimmy Butler's knee is definitely bothering him. Whatever he wants to say, he's a warrior, good for him. His knee's bothering him. Bam ate up the Celtics in game 3. Like, I don't understand what happened last night. You didn't have Hero. I presume Hero will be back for the next game. They'll play better at home in game 5.
Hero hasn't been a big factor, though,
exactly,
in any of the games.
I'm hoping we finally see Hero in game 5. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't understand this team. It's a bunch of veterans. Like, you understand what a 3-1 lead is compared to 2-2. Like, if you can go up 3-1, That's a command. The Warriors are
You would think if you lost that game, maybe you would fade late as opposed to just getting bludgeoned early. You would have to expect that Boston was going to come out and attempt to be razor sharp and get an edge, but they were pretty much handed to it. The Celtics were handed that lead as if they were, picking hors d'oeuvres off a platter at a bar mitzvah. I don't know that they were playing all that great. I mean, they weren't horrible, but it wasn't like they were brilliant. There were plenty of opportunities for the Heat to get themselves into the game. It's mystifying, and it will always remain so. I understand it's the way the game is played now and the way it's structured, and it's weird for an old school guy like me to be, complaining about the just over infatuation with the 3-point shot in NBA basketball, where it's just every possession you have a team that's already dug itself into a hole, and they're still jacking up threes that they've been missing at an incredibly lame ratio. And I don't get it. I don't know why coaches don't immediately call a timeout, intervene there, and say, hey, remember this? This is a phrase that used to actually apply. Let's work the ball.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. Like, I watched, it's so funny. You've always made fun of me for being an old man in a young man's body, but I sit there
You are an old man, an old Jewish cranky man in a young man's body. It's great.
And I guess that's what happens, because I watch these games and I'm like, another three? Like, come on, guys. Like, go to the basket.
You're 0 for 7 from 3-point range. What? I mean, you just keep chucking them up there because you figure you're due?
I don't get it. Like,
well, why not try something? I mean, mix it up a little bit. Throw a couple of passes, get the ball on the inside, maybe crash the boards a little bit. Just mix it up a little bit. I don't know why. It's persistent throughout the league, and it's the way the game is being played right now. And I understand that the 3-point shot, you only have to hit 33% of them to be the equivalent of 50% shooter from 2-point range, but you don't see even 33% of these shots being made. You're seeing horrendous totals by the losing team on 3-point attempts.
Because they just jack up anything, and that's what made the Heat, to me, great this year, was that they're not the Rockets. Like, yes, they were number one in 3-point shots made or something like that in the regular season, but they didn't live and die by it. They have a bunch of guys that can go to the basket and get easy scores. That first quarter was the antithesis of everything they've done all year long. Like, let's just jack up threes and really not use any of the shot clock and not work the ball. Let's just, It was like, okay, like, what are you doing?
Very mystifying, the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this series, because it's been one team dominant on every other ball game so far. Leading you to the conclusion that it will reverse once again, and you'll have the percentages all in a Heat favor, because it's like an 80% shot that if you win Game 5, and especially if you're the home team of a series that's tied at 2-2, 80+% of the time, the team that wins Game 5 wins the series. So we'll see if the Heat are up to the occasion. They certainly weren't up to anything last night except no good. And that was the case. An embarrassment, though, on the ice, Lubie. I know we all became hockey experts over the last couple of weeks, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's entertaining when your team is engaged in the postseason, which was pretty rare for the Florida Panthers, team we've been watching for a long time. Hearing a lot of bullshit coming from the front office about how they're just primed and ready to make a move. It certainly appeared to be the case that they had solved a lot of their problems and were in a position to be a really, really strong contender.
So once again, that's sort of the sucky thing about having both the Panthers and Heat play on the same night. If both franchises have a sucky night, then it's a really, really, really rough night. And that was last night. The Panthers get swept away by the in-state, I guess, rivals. I mean, the Lightning own the Panthers, so I don't know if it's a real rivalry, but I guess there are rivals. I don't know if we're rivals to them. The Lightning moved to the Eastern Conference Finals for the third straight year after defeating the Panthers in the playoffs for the second straight year. The Miami Heat are now tied in their series with the Celtics, as Game 5 will be here in South Florida Wednesday. Not sure what's going on in that series. One night the Heat played strong. The next day they play bad. That's the night that the Celtics play strong. The next time they play bad. This series has really been It's seesaw in the sense that it's 2-2. It's also seesaw in the sense that one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. We have yet to get a good game. Not sure why these two teams that are full of veterans that show what they can do one night totally forget to play the next night. The Heat were an abomination last night. Yeah, the refs have been horrible. Okay, the refs have been massively one-sided. But the Heat are helping them. Like, if you're going to settle for jumpers, then you let them off the hook. You know, I go to the basket. I get it. Look, the refs not giving you fouls gets annoying. But if you keep going to the basket, you keep getting fouls, at some point they have to call them. Oladipo had a nice night last night. Robinson finally came in, had a nice night in the second half. Like, Butler, and I know he has a knee thing, and it showed. No hero, and even when he's been out there, he's been horrible. Bam Adebayo, who was aggressive, played well in Game 3, showed us what he can do. We all got excited. And then the next game, Robert Williams comes back. And look, Robert Williams is big for the defense of the Celtics, for their team defense. He's a good defender. The dude is thin. He's decently athletic, but he's not a monster. It's not Shaq out there. It's not Rudy Gobert. It's not a defensive force. Like, Bam Adebayo is a much better player than Robert Williams. Bam Adebayo, on both ends of the floor, should dominate Robert Williams. The fact that Robert Williams comes back and Bam goes back to being a shell of himself is an utter joke. Kyle Lowry, we know he's dealing with stuff, does nothing. Strus does nothing. That whole starting lineup was abysmal, and they got demolished. Not sure. Look, they come home. You would think, I think Hero will be back, and maybe we'll see Hero. Who knows what we'll get from him, even if he plays. But the rest of that starting lineup, yes, rotation guys, you think they'd play better at home. They probably will. But that was horrendous. And it's the Eastern Conference Finals. It's a lot of veteran guys. Like, you want to go up 3-1. The Celtics are going to come out with their best shot. Where were you? And I don't blame Spo. I'm sure Spo tried every trick in the book. I'm sure Haslam did too. That's why he was frustrated all game. They said, look, be ready, be ready, be ready. And this team, for some reason, unless, they get punched in the mouth, they can't be the aggressor as of yet. Hopefully they wake up and play much better in Game 5. And then they keep that going in Game 6. We shall see. You'll get more of us tomorrow morning. Just check us out. Google The Defo Show, DEFO. Check out our exclusive content podcast, BLEAV.com, Believe.com, the Believe Network. Today we talked with Denise Crosby, a big part of Star Trek The Next Generation Trekkies. The documentary is now out on Blu-ray Trekkies. So we talked with Denise Crosby about that. She also was a big part of Ray Donovan. We talked to her about Ray Donovan. And we talk about the abomination that was the Miami Heat and Florida Panthers playoff experiences from Monday night. Also, each and every day right here, our South Florida content, The Devo Show with the Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?